But I do want to touch on, because I noticed today on television that no one talked about Mikal Bridges last night or this morning after his masterpiece last night. So Mikal was 12 for 17 from the field, 31 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 4 blocks, 4 for 4 from 3. As the primary defender last night, the guys he guarded were 3 for 17. This was like, I've talked a bunch about Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum, their two-way brilliance so far in these playoffs and the value of that. But Mikal Bridges put together a two-way masterpiece last night.
Masterpiece. 46 minutes, 54 seconds playing time.
I think what makes him – I was thinking about this a lot today, and what makes him so good, so valuable, is that Mikal Bridges could live. The Mikal Bridges we know. Let's take away any growth that he has. And we'll talk a little bit about how he got those 31 points. But let's take away any growth he has as a player. This version of Mikal Bridges can play on any championship level team and be a starter and play 40-plus minutes in the playoffs. There's not, Tommy, I'm going to be clear on this. There's not that many guys in the league that you could say that about. We think there are. There's not.
Well, so we're going to get to some of the plays from last night in a second. I think the one other thing that we should shout out, and we've talked about this with him before, but Mikal did not miss a game in college. Has not missed a game since he got to the NBA. And so everything else aside, everything that's in the court aside, the war of attrition is a thing that every team is battling right now. And even that, part of why he's improved so much is he doesn't get nearly enough credit for just his ability to show up and just be a warrior.
People argue with me all the time about availability being a skill. And we talked about it with Kyrie in the mailbag. But I really believe this. I believe this. Like, showing up for your job, it sounds simple, but that is a skill. Not everybody can play. Like, it's hard to play injured. I'll give you that. And this is not a subtweet at any player. It is not a subtweet at Ben Simmons. It is very hard to play injured. When you have an injury, a hamstring injury, a back injury, a knee, ankle, whatever it may be, an injury. But as an NBA player, you play 82 games, you're hurt all the time. You're hurt. You've got a thigh bruise. You've got
you play that many minutes. Like, yeah, he's not playing 12 minutes a night.
You got a rib out. You got a thigh bruise. You got a tweaked ankle. Your hip flexors super sore. Like, these things, they pop up. It's inevitable. And so being able to play hurt and be effective playing hurt is a real thing. I'm not saying Mikal's hurt right now, but to go on this run that he's had where he hasn't missed any games is incredible. The full package last night. We saw the threes. We saw mid-range pull-ups. We talk about Mikal's cutting all the time. He's one of the best cutters in the league. He had multiple back cuts last night. There was a slip cut on a 21 action where he came up and set the step-up screen and slipped into space and scored. He didn't do this last night. We've talked often about his face cuts, which is the opposite of a back cut, obviously, where they set up this little misdirection pick and roll up top, and then he face cuts out of the corner. He's just a really skilled. It's basic, Tommy, but it's just so effective, and he's so skilled. And then, of course, the two-way brilliance. You know, the inefficient night that Bi had, the inefficient night that CJ McCollum had, the block shots, 2-on-1 play. Just a pleasure to see. I said this going into Game 5 when I was doing ESPN stuff on Tuesday. The Phoenix Suns going into Game 5 were 29% from the three, and they just haven't shot the ball particularly well. And they were tied for seventh, around 37% overall for the regular season. They were tied for seventh in the league. They shot 37% last night, 10 for 27. Mikal was 4 for 4. The other guys were 6 for 23. Like, this is his night last night. This is the reason they're in a position to advance to the next round, was because
this is the Mikal Bridges game. Defensively, one question I had for you, we talked about this with Bam a couple weeks ago. We've obviously talked about this with Marcus as well. But the ability to guard multiple positions and the flexibility to defend Bi, who we've gassed up a ton, rightfully so, on the show over the last couple of weeks. And CJ, who's had a great playoff so far and is an amazing score in a bunch of different ways. The ability to go back and forth between those two and to defend those two in the same game, and basically while having this, what is it about his length and skill set that allows him to be that effective?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this a couple months ago, I think, when we talked about him at length. But the thing that's impressive to me is there's a lot of guys that are lengthy, that rely on that length because they don't have the lateral quickness, and so they get beat off the dribble quite a bit, and so they rely on those reach around, those little tips from behind, or they get the steal late. The guy gathers and goes up for the layup, and as he's bringing the ball up, they use that length to reach in. Mikal has both. Like, Mikal can stay in front of a guy, disrupt an offensive possession, get a great contest, and he still has the length where when he does get beat, and like no player doesn't ever get beat, but when he does get beat, he still has the length to do it. Just really impressed with him. Can't believe he wasn't a 76er. One other guy I want to shout out, he did only played 12 minutes last night and fouled out, but Cam Payne has really struggled in these playoffs, and he had a nice night last night. Super aggressive, hit 2 out of 3 threes. But those non-Chris Paul minutes, you need production from that. And I thought Cam's night was really important for them.